This episode,
more of our guest interviewees' silky tones.
A rather rubbery Fab Fact.
Some timey-wimey newsy news.
And the Randomiser strikes again.
That's all coming up in Pod 58
of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get started.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Can't help yourself.
Again.
Cannot help yourself, can you, Richard?
Here we are for Pod 58 of the Gerry Anderson Podcast, Jamie. How are you today?
I'm pretty well, thank you very much. I'm wearing my International Rescue polo shirt, which I think is rather snazzy.
Yes, it's
and,
rather
and
lovely.
you are wearing your limited edition 50th anniversary Thunderbirds t-shirt with gold 50.
Yeah, I have to say that's not all I'm wearing. But
Are you sure?
Yes.
I mean, you're sat down, so I can't tell.
No.
Anyway, who are you, potentially half-naked podcast presenter?
No, let me just assure you, I'm not in any way even half naked. I'm fully clothed, Richard James, and you are?
Good, equally fully clothed Jamie Anderson.
That is a relief, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're here for the next hour and a half or so on the hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast. What's it all about? Well, it's your opportunity and our opportunity to talk all things Gerry Anderson, to celebrate his legacy, to talk about his amazing series, and to look to the future with lots of exciting stuff on the way. That's about right, isn't it, Jamie?
That is a really nice summary.
There we are.
Yeah, but it's not just us talking.
Indeed. No,
Thankfully.
we have. Yeah, we've got people have been emailing us all week. So a little later, we'll have the voice of the Podstrons. That's listeners' emails. They've been dropping their emails to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We also have Chris Dale coming up, of course, a little later on with his amazing randomizer. This time, it will be a random episode from one or other of the Gerry Anderson series, and he will be giving us his thoughts and comments as he watches. And we have Fab Fax coming up a little shortly, of course. And Jamie, part 2 of your interview.
With the lovely Marc Silk. Yes. Yeah. Marc Silk is a voice actor, and we had a lovely chat about everything kind of Thunderbirds, Stingray. He had all sorts of Gerry Anderson anecdotes, which were great last week. This week, in fact, I think I forced him to do a sort of variant of Quickfire 5. There'll be a couple of those coming up too in due course.
Absolutely right, yes. Yeah.
So, yes, lots to look forward to.
Great. Talking of potential interviewees, I've tried in vain so far, I have to say, to get in touch with various people about joining us on the podcast. So, but I think it's just a question of their schedules perhaps not allowing at the moment that they talk to us. But Charlotte and I went to a kind of a mini Space Precinct reunion this week. This was to celebrate Jason Krasaki's 60th birthday. He was an editor on Space Precinct. So Charlotte and I went along to central London to wish him a happy birthday. And who did we find there? Not only Space Precinct editor Sue Robinson and her assistant Mags Arnold, not only Mark Sherwood, who of course you know and love as well, who's worked on various of the Gerry Anderson series, but also Alan Birkinshaw, director, I think, of 2 or 3 episodes of Space Precinct. In fact, he directed one of the fan favourites, Time to Kill, which I know is very popular, the Cyborg episode.
I love that one.
Oh, yes. I think I spent about 4 days on a warehouse floor shooting that one. Anyway, he said he'd be very interested in joining us to talk all things Gerry Anderson and about his illustrious directing career on film and TV. So I'm emailing him at the moment, and hopefully we'll get a date together where we can sit down and have a chat. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I see your Alan Birkinshaw and raise you a John Glenn, Richard James.
You are joking. That's so unfair.
Sorry. So we think we've agreed a time in the next couple of weeks to do a chat with John Glenn as well. So that'll be fascinating. And I'm gunning for some Space 1999 themed interviews for this September.
Great.
So they could be sciencey, they could be celebrity fan. And maybe if we're lucky, we might even get either some archive or new interview with someone from the cast, perhaps.
Yeah, wow,
Let's see
lovely.
how we go. So
Great.
lots to look forward to. Make sure you're subscribed, therefore, or you may miss these forthcoming interviews. And how do they do that, Richard?
Well, it's quite easy, Jamie. You head over to the platform of choice, wherever you find our podcast, and you hit the subscribe button. And that means you won't miss a single episode every week that a new one drops. And also, while you're there, you could leave us a nice review and a rating, and even share us with your friends so they get to hear us too. Simple as that.
We would be very grateful if you would do just that.
Right, Jamie, here we go. It's time for your Quick Fire 5. Are you ready for these?
No, not really, but
Come
okay.
on. Right. Theme songs. The Protectors, Avenues and Alleyways, or 5 all XL5s, I Wish I Was a Spaceman.
XL5 every time.
Oh, robots. Robert the Robot or Dick Spanner?
Oh,
Yeah.
Dick Spanner, I think.
Right, interesting. Anderson Adverts, Swinton Insurance or Jif Dessert Toppings?
Oh, Swinton Insurance. The Jif one's creepy.
Uniforms, Alphans or Thunderbirds?
Oh!
Oh, tricky.
That is tough. Alphans.
Right. And finally, actors who appeared in the Carry On films and also Four Feather Falls. Kenneth Connor or Nicholas Parsons?
Oh, it has to be Nicky P, doesn't it? Dear old
Of course
Nicholas
it does.
Parsons.
And that's your Quick Fire 5. Well done.
That's a great selection. There's some really tough ones there, actually. Unexpectedly tough.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dick Spanner, of course, we don't really think of as an android or a robot, although he plainly is, of course. But
He is a robot detective.
Yeah, but he's such a character. I suppose we don't think of him in those terms. Funnily enough.
Yeah, and I feel a bit bad not picking Robert the Robot, obviously, because Dad voiced him.
Yeah, I know.
But
Yeah,
I think I'd be forgiven.
I think he would be. Yeah, as much as he ever forgave you for anything. But yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard.
Now, time for this week's Fab Fax.
Ah.
Yeah, I thought we'd keep that. So
Yes.
it's a nice interjection, isn't it? And it
Absolutely
also
right.
stops you saying, "Oh, there's another section. I think I don't really like it. I can't really think what it is."
Right, okay.
that
Had
old,
enough of that,
That
haven't we?
old one. Yeah, it's time to move on. We're moving up in the kind of professional presentation stakes now.
Oh, are we?
Yes.
Is that what we're doing?
So we're trying. So thank you, Marc Silk, for that brand new Fab Fax intro. And I'm hoping we won't need it, but he also recorded me a Fab Fax outro, which basically apologises if the Fab Fact was not that fab.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So let's hope we don't need that. For those of you who don't know what this section is, I've got a book of Fab Facts. I flick through it. Richard shouts Fab. I stop flicking through the pages when he shouts Fab, and then I pick a fact from the pages of Fab Facts, and we talk about said Fab Fact.
Yeah. It's as
Clear?
simple as that. Yeah, that's right.
Right then, Richard. Well, the book is here. Are you
you
ready
go.
to shout Fab?
Born ready. Fab!
Richard has stopped
Yeah.
us on the spread of page 52 and 53 for those playing along at home.
Oh,
And I'm going to stick with the first fact on page 52.
right.
And that fact is this. Condoms were used in tests to find a suitable material to cover the area below the movable lower lip of the early puppets. In the end, though, good quality fine leather provided the solution.
What? The lower lips?
Yeah, so Super Marination puppets, the solenoid in the head moved the lower lip up and down, and that was given the illusion of speaking, right? But
A solenoid being what?
an electromagnet.
Oh,
So
okay.
Open and close the mouth.
Yeah.
But it was only the lower lip that was moving.
Yes.
And so you needed something on a fiberglass head that would provide the flexibility to allow the lower lip to move. And so, you have to go searching for the right material. And somebody obviously
Right.
thought, well, we want a thin and flexible material. So let's try latex from condoms.
Okay.
And
This-
they tried it, but then it decided to go with fine leather instead.
How interesting. Well, that is fascinating, isn't it? I love the inventive quality to all this. It's that we've got a problem. How can we solve it? Let's think outside the box. Let's, expand our horizons and really...
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they're creating their own problems by trying to advance things technically,
Yes.
and then solving them in really creative ways.
Yes, exactly.
And that's one of the hallmarks of the Super Marination era and beyond. Really, you get that same inventiveness, not just in the puppet workshop, but across to special effects with Derek Meddings and co, and then through to Brian Johnson doing these elaborate matte paintings and windowed shots to get, for example, eagle pilots inside the eagle. I mean, that was
Yeah, right.
it's an incredibly advanced technique. So it was happening all over the shop on Anderson Productions, and I think probably you could happily say that it's thanks to that creative spirit and that inventive nature of all the people on there that film and TV special effects are where they are today.
Oh, absolutely right. Absolutely right. We stand on the shoulders of giants, Jamie, and that's always been true, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, Richard. And what a great note to end this week's Flat Fact! Because of the flapping lips, obviously.
Yeah, the flapping lips, yeah. Yeah, very good, Jamie. Excellent. Well done. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. This is Pod 58. Now, don't forget, you can get in touch with us on Twitter, as I know many of you have over the last week or so. All you have to do is either tag him, I'm Jamie Anderson, or me, Richard N. James, and hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, just like these very people.
5.
Alan J. Porter said, it seems like the Gerry Anderson Podcast is working its magic, as when we recorded the latest episode of our James Bond On Her Majesty's Secret podcast, I name-checked Barry Gray instead of John Barry when talking music scores. Easily done.
4.
Number 4, Joe Hollies said, surprise of the day, catching up on last week's instalment of the Gerry Anderson Podcast, and co-host Richard James reads out your name, followed by a question you posted on the listeners' Facebook group. Surprise again, Joe.
3.
Becca says, many thanks to Jamie Anderson, Richard James and Chris Dale, and to all the amazing guests so far. Here's to the next incredible year and beyond. And don't forget, there's new Gerry Anderson stuff being made right now. Couldn't have put it better myself, Becca.
2.
Number 2, crime writer Mark Billingham said, why has nobody made a live-action movie of Joe 90? Why? Also, second best theme tune title sequence ever after The Persuaders, obviously.
1.
And in number 1 position, it's Mark Billingham again. On being told that we'll address that very question in the podcast, he replied, there's a podcast? Now I'm very excited. Yes, Mark, here we are, and I hope you've joined us this week.
Who wouldn't be excited to hear those Gerry Anderson podcasts? Well, should we answer Mark's question now?
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Why has nobody ever made a live-action movie of Joe 90?
Well, I think there was probably a window of opportunity in the post-2004 Thunderbirds world. Although because that film wasn't terribly successful, and that's being polite, I think that kind of soured the appetite slightly for Anderson live-action remakes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, at some point, either just before that or just after, Disney, I believe, optioned the rights to make a live-action Joe 90 feature film.
Oh, did they now?
But as far as I know, nothing really ever came of it. I don't even know if there are any scripts written or anything like that. The option lapsed and the rights returned to ITV. So,
right.
And there they sit. Now, I've spoken to quite a few people over the years who are keen to do that kind of thing, but as we know, these things take a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
They're very difficult to raise money for. What's the Blackadder quote? If you want to do these things, your path is strewn with cowpats from the devil's own satanic herd.
That's right, exactly.
I just remembered that quote the other day.
Yeah. Sums it up nicely.
It's a very, very difficult thing to do. So who knows? But Mark's a famous novelist, isn't he?
Yes, he is indeed.
Maybe he can pull some strings.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, they'd need some significant changes for Joe 90 to be appealing to some people.
I mean, you really would, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a nice idea, Mark. So thank you for the question, and we do hope you're listening.
Yes, now here's an interesting thing. I watched the first episode of Joe 90, which is available for free on the Gerry Anderson website.
It is, you're right, Richard. Nice plug there.
And I'd never seen it before, so I thought, well, I'll sit down and watch the first episode. And, I mean, spoiler alert, everyone, so cover your ears if you don't want to know. It's all a dream.
Yeah, but only the first episode.
Yes, that's very odd, though, isn't it? A very strange narrative turn at the end where the guy says, well, that's the sort of thing that might happen if you were to be a secret agent. Oh, okay, right. So none of that actually happened then.
Yeah, it is an odd one, isn't it? Because you think you've saved that dream one for mid-series something when everything went terribly wrong or got a bit scary.
Yes, that's right. Very strange.
The opening, the setup story.
Yeah, and it's a very suspect thing to do, to put a 9-year-old child in a machine to implant him with someone else's brainwaves.
It is just a little bit, isn't it? And did you find Joe annoying?
I quite liked Joe, to be honest. I found his father more objectionable, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Yes, I think Joe was very much the victim.
Interesting.
No, I thought it was quite a sweet performance. Who did the voice? Do you know?
Yes, we've mentioned this before.
With John Colshaw, yeah.
Len Jones.
Right, yeah.
And John predicted how Len would sound now, and he got it spot on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and Len Jones, we've tried to get in touch with you multiple times and almost did it, but if you ever hear our podcast, then do email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Exactly.
That's that answer, Richard. Shall we have some Gerry Anderson news?
Oh, I'm always up for some Gerry Anderson news, Jamie.
Then let's have it. Richard.
Yes?
This is a bit of Gerry Anderson news, but it's also kind of general thought about how we make the worlds of Gerry Anderson more appealing to those who aren't familiar with every aspect of it.
Okay.
So what we've decided to do is to create a series of primers on our YouTube channel. Now, the primers are basically, they encapsulate everything about a particular series, in 6 to 9 minutes. And we just released our first one immediately before release of this podcast on our YouTube channel, and that's a UFO primer. Because we know there are lots of people who got into, say, Thunderbirds and Scarlet, and then as Joe 90 came out, they were getting a bit old, and then they kind of left it behind. Or there's people that just got into live action series. Yeah. And somehow, kind of going to a brand new old series that's outside of your comfort zone might be a little bit challenging, or it might seem a bit impenetrable somehow. Yes. So what we're trying to do is open it up. And if you've got a friend who you know hasn't seen a Gerry Anderson series, you can very quickly say, "Oh well, here's a video. See if you might like it." Aha. That's the idea. So great. Do pop along to our YouTube channel if you've not already done so. Please subscribe. YouTube.com/Gerry Anderson TV. Watch the UFO primer. Let us know what you think. And send it to a friend. Yeah, absolutely. Click the share button, send it over, and see what they think. And you may well create a new UFO fan or a new Gerry Anderson fan just by doing so. And I think that's quite exciting.
Yeah, a word of warning though, Jamie. If you do head on over to the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, make sure you allow yourself plenty of time, because I guarantee you're going to be sucked into a black hole of goodness and you won't be able to stop. It honestly, it just goes on and on. So much great stuff there. So set aside an afternoon, I'd say. Lock the doors. Yeah, exactly. No,
give yourself the whole weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's loads more there too, obviously. Now, we mentioned last week that Andrew Skilleter art prints were coming.
Yes.
Well, They have. They're here. They're live in the shop now. So if you want Thunderbirds Are Go, Scarlet Fire, or Captain Scarlet and Cloudbase, pop along. Andrew will create them in a bespoke fashion just for you and sign them.
Really?
Before rolling them up, tubing them, and sending them to you.
Amazing.
So that's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, great.
And as we know Andrew's work from various Doctor Who covers and comics and all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah. And also, on the print front, our dear departed friend Mike Noble did a nice piece, a 0x print with Lee Sullivan a few years ago, and that's not been available for a little while. Anyway, we've done some chatting with Lee, and that 0x print, the Noble-Sullivan collaboration print, is also available, if not already, then very shortly.
Wow.
That's
lovely.
a nice thing to have as well.
Isn't it?
You know, Mike's lovely vehicle work, and Lee's extremely colourful, vibrant, cosmic background. It's just a nice thing.
Great. Very nice.
So there you go. Yeah. And you've mentioned dream episodes, Richard. But,
yes.
There are also plenty of time travel episodes in the Gerry Anderson universe.
Are there?
Yeah. And Randomiser King himself, Chris Dale, has done a top 5 time travel episodes article for the Gerry Anderson website.
Oh, great. I hope it's all sort of, all jumbled up and in the wrong order.
Of course it is, yeah.
And he went back in time and did number 3 and then...
chronological. But Time to Kill is in there.
Oh, I suppose it would be, yes.
Yeah, as are several other time travel episodes. So pop along and have a read and let us know what you think. And let us know what your favourite is in the comments below said article.
Great.
Now, Richard, there are several other things that have happened this week. In fact, I went somewhere and sent you some photos from that place, didn't I? And that's very exciting. And I'm so desperate to talk about that. No. We can't mention it yet, but quite soon, I hope. In the next few weeks, we will be able to say what that thing is. So
great.
Keep your ears pricked up, Podsterons, and you'll then be able to go, oh, that was the thing they were talking about in Pod 58.
Yes.
So, yes, there's some other stuff It's just so difficult not to say these things, but we just can't yet.
No.
Sit tight. Some good news is coming shortly.
Yes, exactly.
And that annoying tease brings us to the close of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news! That was the news! There you go, why not? I much prefer annoying teas to annoying coffees, by the way. It's true, isn't
Or that horrible thing you get on a train where they put the hot water for the tea in a pot that used to contain coffee, and then they make the tea with the sort of really dilute coffee water, and it tastes like neither tea or coffee.
That's interesting. See, Charlotte, my wife, she could tell. So if I make myself a cup of coffee, she's a tea drinker, so I make her a cup of tea. And I stir my coffee first. Then if I use the same spoon to stir her tea, she can tell. She can tell.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible? I think that's her superpower. I mean,
It's not a really useful superpower, is it?
It's not. No, that's
Somewhat
true.
limited usage. Podsterons, what's your superpower? Do let us know.
Yeah.
Podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk, especially if it's Gerry Anderson related, such as you're able to transfer the memories of another human being into your own mind and go on secret missions. If that's your superpower, then let us know. Oh dear, Richard, that means it's your turn for a quickfire 5, which foolishly I've written in gold pen on a pink post-it, so it's really difficult to read.
Great. Give me more thinking time.
Here we go. On the podcast, the randomiser or the sequelizer?
Oh, I prefer the sequelizer, actually.
Because
Yes.
the predictability.
Yes.
When it comes to toys, Dinky or Matchbox?
Oh, Dinky. No, I'm changing it. Matchbox.
Oh,
Yeah, it's got to be Matchbox.
Okay.
I had loads of Matchbox toys.
fine. Richard James books, Devil in the Dock or Head in the Ice?
Devil in the Dock, I think.
Interesting. Terry's, Wogan or Adlam?
Well, you can't have the old Wogan. You can't leave him out there. I don't know. That sounded more like someone else than Terry Wogan. I'm going to have to say Terry Adlam.
Nice, he'll
Only because he'll be
appreciate it.
listening.
And finally for this one, Gerry Anderson 1950s Nightmare Fuel, Twizzle or Torchy?
Oh, how could you? Twizzle's a bit weird. But it's got to be Torchy.
Well done, Richard. Very nicely done.
Wow. Crikey, they were tough. Terry Wogan.
You can tell when I've got down my list I'm struggling a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, after the first one, really.
I'm guessing your dad appeared on the Wogan show at some point. Must have done over the years, mustn't he?
I imagine so.
Probably an interview somewhere, isn't there? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if it's anywhere, it'll be on James Fielding's YouTube channel.
Aha! Of course it will. Yes,
So it's got lots of archive treats there. Mr. Jim, isn't it?
that's it. That's the one.
There's some links in the Podsterons Facebook group. Have we mentioned that Facebook group?
No, we haven't. We can mention it right now. So if you're on Facebook, you can apply to join the Gerry Anderson Podcast listeners group. That's the Podsterons. Now, I have to say, again, at the moment, we have a list of 22 people who are awaiting entry because they haven't answered the 3 very simple questions that they need to answer to get in. 22 people are missing out on fun. So if you want to join, you just have to answer those very 3 simple questions and you can join in the fun. For example, there's lots of guest of the episode quizzes that people are posting. Heather Ballard this week has posted some fantastic fun art of Captain Blue that's worth a look. Tom Hodden has been asking what's kept in Thunderbird 2's Pod 58 and answers in GIF form have included the apes from 2001 A Space Odyssey, the DeLorean from Back to the Future, the Men in Black and Idris Elba from Space Precinct. But special thanks to Bill Ronald. Bill Ronald has been posting lots of comic covers to the Facebook group. Really beautiful artwork. For example, he said today, here is the first instalment of Gold Key Comics, Steve Zodiac and the Fireball XL5 printed in 1963. It was the only issue printed. I've tried to find out who the writer and artist was, but with no luck. The artwork is nowhere near the standard of our own Mike Noble, but has its own charm. There are 2 stories in this issue, and here is the first, The Moon Masters. Part 2 will follow tomorrow. Enjoy. And he's posted some lovely pictures of the inside pages and the cover of those comics on our Facebook group. Really beautiful stuff. Really nice. Martin Ackroyd said, hi, Richard and Jamie. I went along to ATV Studios with a large box of Gerry Anderson collectibles, including an original section of Moonbase Alpha for display purposes for the Saturday morning show, which Marc Silk referred to. He said, I met Gerry Tommy, Bonnie Tyler, Isla St Clair, who asked me for 5 pence for the coffee machine, Jimmy Greaves and Kate Kestrel. Unfortunately, they were short on time for a time slot on the show, but a great day out behind the scenes. Also, I used to go into a Nostalgia and Comics a lot in Birmingham. They had a window display of Dark Crystal once. Bob Monkhouse was always in there, buying armfuls of comics at a time when not filming Family Fortunes. Hey!
I mean, endless nuggets in there.
Podsterons get around, don't they?
They do, and I didn't realise Bob Monkhouse was a comics fan. Obviously, he's got an Anderson connection through the Thunderbirds film.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think I may have mentioned before, I had a lovely Chinese meal in Manchester with Dad and Bob Monkhouse once.
No, I don't think you did mention that.
It was a bizarre experience.
Oh, I mean, a great collector of stuff, wasn't he? And a great archivist, Bob Monkhouse. Famously collected all his jokes in great volumes of books that he kept in his and old films as well. So it doesn't surprise me at all. He was a comics collector. Carl Scott says, I've been messing around with the Face app. And to my surprise, this is the one that makes you look older. Using the right filters, I can end up looking like one of our beloved podcast hosts. As to which one, I'm not saying. I'll give you a clue. He's a bit lacking in the hair department.
Right, Richard. Well, thanks for that reference. We'll move on, shall we?
Oh, well, finally, Jamie, the results of our poll. You asked me to put a poll last week when we were talking about big heads versus small heads. Well, I put it out there to the great British public, or at least the Podsterons, and they said big heads, 27 votes, small heads, 50.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, normally big heads tend to have it, so maybe we've got an interesting subsection of fandom in the Podsterons group.
Exactly.
There we go. Also, we know that some of you are not on Facebook.
Indeed.
And so if you are not and you would like to get in on the ground floor of the podcast community over on Reddit...
Yes.
There is a Gerry Anderson Podcast subreddit now available. That's at reddit.com/r/Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Crikey.
It's early days. Only a few of us there at the moment, but for those of you who don't have Facebook and you would rather have your discussions on Reddit, then there you go.
Yeah, nice. And there we have it.
We do. Now, we've been talking about Podsterons lots, which I feel has sort of summoned some sort of Podsteron spirit into the room.
I think I could smell it now.
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
That was you,
not as
wasn't
bad
it?
as I thought, but yeah. Anyway, this is the voice of the Podsterons. And shall we start with a literal voice of a literal Podsteron now, Richard?
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, here's Big Al with an audio message.
Dun 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 dun. Hello, Gerry Anderson Podcast. It's Big Al calling in once again. Mr. Richard James has just released his second Inspector Bowman book, Devil in the Dock. A little bit of free advertising for you there. If you haven't already got it, fellow Podsterons, go get it now. But has Richard ever considered writing a novel based on any of the worlds of Gerry Anderson? Or perhaps, like Jamie, writing something for Doctor Who? Has Jamie ever considered writing something in book form? I know his Doctor Who's have been audio, but yeah, any books? Book ideas? Love your stuff, guys. Great. Look forward to every Monday in the new podcast. Fab stuff. Sorry, I had to do that joke there. Keep them coming. Lots of love. Ta.
Oh, thanks, Al. Isn't that nice?
Is that lovely? Thanks, Al.
And a plug for your book, Richard.
Well, always welcome, of course. A writerly question. I love these. That's interesting. Would I want to write for Gerry Anderson or Doctor Who? Sort of. I don't know. Actually, there's something about creating your own characters that I really enjoy, and your own universes that I really enjoy. I think in the past I have probably entered. In fact, I know I have at least a couple of times various competitions. Big Finish, the Paul Spragg Memorial stuff for the short trips and all that, and. I think I may have written the odd Doctor Who script in my time. I don't think, apart from the Space Precinct ideas that I put up on the Facebook page, I don't think I've ever written any Gerry Anderson stuff. Never say never, I suppose.
You never know, there might be an Orin spin-off novel in you yet.
Could happen. But I like playing in my own toy box, really, I suppose. How about you, Jamie? I know you've done lots of Big Finish. And,
there's a kind of dark science fiction idea that I've been toying with for a while, which we actually wrote as a 6-part miniseries, but I think actually might work really nicely as a novel. But I don't really know what it takes to do that, Richard.
Nor do I.
Well, that is the secret of creative professionals, really, isn't it? That nobody knows what they're doing.
Absolutely, it is.
And you're just sort of guessing. But
yes,
yeah, I think I find their thought quite daunting, which is why I'm often so impressed by, you know, when I pick up my copy of Devil in the Dock.
Oh, there it is.
Here,
yes.
It's quite a weighty tome. There's a lot of
full of words
stuff that's gone in there. So
yeah. Well, 1,000 words a day. That's all I do. I mean, that's really manageable. 1,000 words a day. You know, a little step every day, and you'll complete a marathon in 2.5 months, and you'll have a novel.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay, well, maybe I'll try and do that at some point. Anyway, thanks, Al. Appreciate that. What have you got there, Richard?
I've got an email from Terry in Hereford. Now, Terry says, you may be interested in a job I did last February at an earthquake in Turkey. So we have our very own international rescue here. We were told about a missing woman in a block of flats, now a mass of rubble. After a bit of a discussion, I crawled in, and after a full hour of crawling in the rubble, I found her. The first thing she said to me was, "My waters have burst." Yes, she was having a baby in the middle of a collapsed building. It took me about 20 minutes to get the baby out and into a rescue bag with oxygen and 16 hours to crawl out of the wreckage. Baby and mother were taken to hospital via a helicopter ambulance, and I went to bed, compulsory, after a long rescue. What an amazing story. We've never had an email quite like that, have we?
We have not. I mean, we had Josh Long rescuing somebody with a flat tyre or something, didn't we?
Yes, it's sort of in a different league, really, isn't it?
It's a slight step up. Yeah, I mean, amazing, Terry. So, do we have any other international rescue type heroes in our midst?
Great.
We'd love to know your stories of heroism, whether they're at Terry's level or not.
Yeah, indeed so. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. That's quite an amazing email. Thank you for that, Terry. If you have a question or a comment or a thought and you'd like us to read out in our next podcast, do drop it to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and we will do our best.
We will. But we get lots and we have to rattle through and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Richard, there is one more, but it's not really one I can read out and describe in full right now.
Oh.
But Steve Rogers has emailed in a suggestion that we have a Gerry Anderson World Cup in the style of the Doctor Who ones that have been going on recently via DWM, I think.
Right.
On Twitter. So I think we might try and go for this.
Oh, yes.
So you vote in different rounds for different shows, with the winner of each going on to face the winner of another round and blah, 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 all the way through to the finalists. So we can find the true King of Kings of Gerry Anderson series. So
I see.
Let's see what happens.
Okay. What are we going to do about that then? Is this going to be on the Facebook page or?
No, I think we'll do it on Twitter, so it's nice and widely available. So Podstrons, do keep out for that, and if you see Gerry Anderson World Cup tweets going out, then do retweet them to spread the message far and wide, so we can find out the real nation or world's favourite, the universe's favourite Gerry Anderson show.
Perfect. Like it. Very good.
There you go. Right, well, that's the end. That is the end of that bit of Podstron stuff.
Yes, thank you for sending in your emails. And it's time for the second part of your interview, I'm guessing, isn't it? Don't we do that about now?
I suppose we could do that about now.
I've got no other plans.
Don't want to break too much of tradition. Yes, so it is part 2 of my chat with voice actor Marc Silk. I gave him a sort of quick fire 5, including, I seem to remember, a particularly mean question at the end.
Okay.
We talk about the enduring values of Gerry Anderson shows, a bit about his career, his favourite voices that he has done, and yeah, just a general all-round nice second half of our chat. Here it is. Clearly, these shows have had a minor impact on your life.
Little bit.
I mean, you're even more of a geek than I thought, and I say that as a geek myself. Geeks are often the best people, I think. But what is it about these, puppet shows, basically, that have stuck with you? Because, I asked this question of lots of our guests, and it varies from story to visuals to sound to the voices. Obviously, Barry Gray's music comes in a lot on these sort of things. But is there one aspect which has grabbed you? I mean, it would feel natural that the voices interested you, but tell me, what fascinates you?
The thing that I think draws me into those shows and will make these things eternal is that they are, first of all, they're incredibly well-made shows. They're incredibly cinematic, and I don't think you can bring one element out more than the others. Obviously, no. I'm a massive fan of the voice work, but that's an easy answer. When you look at what else was on TV when we were growing up, or even what was on TV in the mid-'60s, this wasn't a regular TV show. This was a movie on telly. That's what it was. And the fact also that I think helps make it timeless is instead of it being a thing that was, like early CGI, if you look at early CGI now, it looks awful. It looks tired and plasticky. Whereas because they did a stylized version of the world, and because it was puppets, you watch these shows and you feel that it's something real, it's something tangible. The models were incredible. Yes, of course, the puppets had their limitations, but because of the bigger way the whole thing was constructed, it wasn't a kids show. It wasn't just a puppet show. It was this very exciting, dramatic, funny, inspirational movie. And you look, the show wouldn't have been the same without Barry Gray's music.
No way.
Any other, you can stick another soundtrack on that, and it would be. You could actually kind of turn it into a very nice looking kids show with a different music choice. The voice acting was great. I mean, at the moment, there's been a trend for a while that I think people sometimes think is a new thing, which is a much more sort of natural conversational style of voice acting, and this isn't new. Gerry Anderson was doing that with Thunderbirds, even Fireball. It was a very kind of, whereas Warner Brothers cartoons were much more larger than life and, it's all that kind of stuff, lots of cartoony stuff. Thunderbirds was steeped in reality, and I think that's something that helps make it more timeless. It was in reality, and Derek Medding's effects and the music and the voice acting and the puppeteering. It was the thing as a whole for me is what makes it work. You can dissect it and go, well, here's what really does make it special. The sound design, of course, again with John Taylor and the whole Taylor, but just the fact that it's steeped in reality but done so well, you could you forget that you're watching a puppet show. It just happens to be that puppets were the performers, but it was, to me, it was never. I never looked at it and went, oh, it's puppets. To me, it was a great story. With any piece of entertainment, what you want are great stories, great characters. That's it. You got to have both, otherwise you don't really have anything. Yeah. And the Anderson shows, the Gerry Anderson shows, they all had that.
That's a great summary. I mean, I love what you're saying about the kind of human, natural stuff about the voice acting, because you're right. I mean, it's a lot of kids stuff today still, it's got a kind of overly polished, larger than life, cartoony feel to it, no matter whether it's live action or CG or 2D, whatever. There's something unreal and disconnected about it. Whereas, when Shane Rimmer was delivering those lines about the fact they're running out of time and all that kind of stuff. The intensity is there and the drama is so strong. Well, it makes up for anything lacking.
Yeah, I mean, Shane Rimmer could act. That's the thing too. They could all act. They were great scripts and they were brilliant performances. And as a technical thing, something that I didn't appreciate until more recently was the fact that I heard, Matt Zimmerman told me a couple of weeks ago, and I've heard Shane mention it too, that they were using one microphone.
Yeah.
And
mic.
Yeah. So basically, each performer had their script, and then when it was time for their line, they had to step up to the microphone, perform their line, then get out of the way for the next actor to step into the microphone and perform their line. And that's really unusual. Now when I'm working on shows or films, we each have a microphone and we almost perform it like a radio play if you're lucky enough to have the whole cast together. The last 2 days I've been working on series 3 of Go Jetters for the BBC, and that's how we do that. I'm the voice of this guy called Grandmaster Glitch, who's an absolute ratbag. Actually, he's not. He's just misunderstood. But for Thunderbirds, for them to have to step in and do it that way, is there any footage that exists of that? Because I'd love to see that.
I don't think there is, sadly.
I
It's just
think
such a
there is.
shame. Lacking on human behind the scenes stuff, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there are any still images somewhere, even from someone's personal collection that worked on it.
Maybe. There's a picture of the cast of Captain Scarlet, I think, around a single mic.
I don't think I've seen that. I love that
it's a
stuff.
Nice one. It's a really nice one. But no, there's someone somewhere must have, or maybe they just thought, well, it's a voice session. I'm not going to take a photo of this. It's just a load of people I know in a boring room.
Yeah, I think back then, even sometimes now, I think it's very easy to almost throw it away, going, well, it's just a kids show, or it's just another recording, or it doesn't matter. You know, you even look at like Alec Guinness's approach from Star Wars. He saw it as like a throwaway B movie. He didn't really think much of it, and these things happen once. And even as a kid, I kind of thought this stuff mattered to capture these moments. I used to love it when you'd see the behind-the-scenes stuff. So when I first got to be lucky enough to work on these kind of projects, in a bigger way, like whether it's Star Wars or any of them really, I made a point of filming behind the scenes. So right from the start, I took a little DV camera in with me. And I've got footage of George Lucas and me at Abbey Road recording, working on Star Wars. And then, and same with whether it's a game or a cartoon show or something. I love capturing that. Not as an ego thing, but as a genuine, there are people in that room that are so skilled at what they do. And I love seeing that.
Yeah, and good on you for doing it, because it's just such a shame that sort of documenting style of capturing all this stuff just wasn't something that was done then, or couldn't be done perhaps for technical reasons.
Yeah. And it's nice as well when it's from someone that's actually working on it. You get to see a more personal, intimate side of it that you wouldn't have if you were part of a documentary crew. And that's really nice. There was a game I worked in called Black and White that I worked on back in 20 years ago. Oh my God, is it 20 years old? And it became
I played it.
Oh, you can't really?
Yeah, were you all the god, right? And you kind of decide to be a good god or a bad god, and you
that's fantastic
build stuff, and yeah.
Oh well, thank you for that. That means a lot to me. That's great. And yeah, so I was the voice of good and evil in Black and White. Those guys, the two guys. There was a man who was wizardy and wise in your conscience, and this guy that sounded like a New York taxi driver. I
remember. Gosh, and I haven't played it for probably 19 years. So weird that. Comes back. Nice.
But, it's a great game and a lot of fun. And I was the only one that took behind the scenes video of that. And so at some point, I must share that because it's great to see. I was wearing a terrible orange shirt during the recording. What a letdown!
It was the 90s.
I was young. I didn't know any better.
Wow, great game. I see another weird connection there, Mark.
Have you ever played Overlord?
I have not played Overlord.
That was another great game. There was the voice of this sort of now the minion master. Evil will always find a way. Yeah, but it was a really great game, and but the dialogue was so good. It was written by Rhianna Pratchett, and she really knows her stuff.
Oh.
You need a good writer.
I'll keep it in mind. Noted.
She's your gal.
So clearly, Mark, listeners may have picked up a few hints that you do quite a lot of voice work. Is it possible that watching these Gerry Anderson shows may have had some influence? I mean, I kind of imagine a little Mark sat in front of Terrorhawks or whatever, doing impressions of Neinstein, that Jack Nicholson-esque thing, or trying to do your best Windsor Davis. I mean, did it start then, or is that something that came later?
It came later, and yeah, they absolutely did have an impact on me. But they came later, and it's weird because I think at school I was quite shy. Really, I think I always knew that I could. I think I always knew I could probably do it. But as a kid, I was very musical. So, I played the piano since I was 7. I'm ropey as hell on the piano right now. But I've always had a really good musical ear and a fascination for behind the scenes. And I was more drawn to the craftsmanship of it behind the scenes than being on a stage. So, when I did a course at school on which was media for the last 2 years. The final 2 years of school, and it involved a school radio station, and the idea of doing this terrified me because I wanted to be the button guy, I wanted to be the John Taylor, I wanted to be the Ben Burt sound design, I wanted to be the knob twiddler, and I was forced to. Well, we all need hobbies. I was forced to do this radio show, and the thing that terrified me suddenly, basically changed my life. because it was like being pushed in the pool and figuring out you can swim really well. Because with all these things that we love, you almost become like a creative sponge where you're absorbing all these influences and things you love. And then when you're finally in the right, sponge is a bit of a weird euphemism, isn't it? But when you're finally in the right environment, you wring the sponge out, you realize, oh my God, there's all this stuff I knew that I can use for this. And it was that moment when I needed to record some bits and pieces. There was no one else around to record the voice, so I just kind of did it. And suddenly, I think I was imitating something from the Muppets at the time. I mean, I can do him. Back then, when you're starting out in anything creative, your only points of reference are your heroes. So, if you're a musician, if you're learning to play the piano, and you like Billy Joel, you might start learning your favorite Billy Joel tunes. He said, doing exactly that when I was 7 years old. But then the more that you play, you move from being the cover band into writing your own tunes. And eventually you kind of find your own voice and you find your own style. But that's made up of all these other influences that finally kind of melt down into you. And so I can do impersonations and things like that. But what I find much more interesting is creating new character voices. That's what I really love. I grew up loving, Gerry Anderson shows and Muppets and Hanna-Barbera and Warner cartoons and Star Wars and all these things. But to move from being the cover band to the creating voices that other people imitate is hugely cool. When you're at a Comic-Con and there's people coming up to you, impersonating your voice or the character that you created that voice of, it's so lovely. And then to be able to share your love of it with them is great. I mean, at the event at the Space Center that you did your podcast from, your mega show, it was really exciting that there were so many different characters that I worked on, whether it was from Go-Jetters or Star Wars or Scooby or Shaggy or Johnny Bravo or whatever it might be, that people either brought things for me to sign or just wanted to talk about it, and I love that. But the Thunderbirds influences and I still am blown away by how good Peter Dineley's. It is Dineley, isn't it? Not
Peter Dineley, yeah.
How timeless his Thunderbirds 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown is. When you hear 5, 4, 3, 2, it's the 2, 1. That. Oh my God! It's so good.
Just counting down.
He's counting down. He's saying numbers, but he has made it so much more than that. And I remember even down to as a kid, knowing, just because I come from a technical background, because I was an engineer in radio, like the button guy before I was working on performance, and even understanding little things like on the original video releases, the number 3 on the Thunderbirds countdown was wonky. There was a glitch in the tape. So what you heard was 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah.
And so
weirdly can remember that from watching those Channel 5 videos, right? Yeah.
And then to hear it done properly, oh my God, I've cleaned it up. It's new. Where did they get that from?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of influences in from those shows in the work I do, as well as all kinds of other bits.
Fantastic. And you, I've heard your full range of voices. Well, a range of voices, plenty of them at your CMC chat. So what are your kind of highlights from the time you started doing this to now? Like your top 5 in a Peter Dineley style.
Oh my God! Oh, I see what you did there. See what you did there. That was clever.
I can even cut Peter in, or you can do it yourself. It's up to you.
Let's do this. Highlight number 5. Probably. There's a great show called Fifi and the Flowertots.
Yeah, I know of it.
And with Jane Horrocks was Fifi, and McKinnon Saunders made the models for it. And I'm the voice of Bumble, who's a little boy bee that's allergic to pollen. So he was this Fifi, forget me not, forgot. and Slugsy the Slug, who's lovable and adorable, a little bit tubby and moist. Him. So that was a pleasure to work on. 4, I got to meet Don Messick, who was the original voice of Scooby-Doo when I was a fan, and then about 10 years ago I got brought in to every now and then bring him to life. So I'll find myself in a room going, Scooby-Dooby-Doo! like Scoob, this podcast's really creepy, right? Yeah, Jamie Anderson. There's that one. Then 3, or if it was the Channel 5 VHS version, 3. Let's see. There is God, there's so much. There's I'm a massive Lego fan as well. And so the last couple of years, I got brought in as the voice director and the character performer for all the male stuff for Lego City. These YouTube animations. And they're just great. So some of those have had over 11 million views. I mean, it's almost like the hits you get on your podcast. It's that kind of audience.
Wow, that's impressive stuff.
Yeah,
Mark.
you know, so there's that. There is 2. Let's say Go Jetters. Mm-hmm. There's a show on CBeebies called Go Jetters. We've been so lucky. It's gone massive. We've got our own magazine. It's on Universal Kids in the States. It's on CBeebies over here. And I'm the voice of Grandmaster Glitch, who him and his Grimbots go around glitching the world. And like I said earlier, I'm not actually bad. I'm just misunderstood. And he's an absolute hoot, because basically he's a character that comes in, rips up the furniture, goes home. It's that. And he's a lot of fun. And then, none of these are accurate, but 1. Yeah, Star Wars. And again, like with Thunderbirds, to be part of that Star Wars world, I worked with George Lucas on Star Wars Episode 1, and I was the voice of a character called Axmo. In the Senate scene, when you see a guy that looks a bit like Reeves with a goat's head, 3 eyes, and a desperate need for moisturizer, when you hear him say, "The Congress of Malastare concur with the right honourable delegate from the Trade Federation. A commission must be appointed. Now get me a Terrorhawks Blu-ray." That
exact line.
It was exactly that
impressive
line.
That George allowed that to get in.
He's a huge fan.
He's a big Anderson fan. He actually is.
Is he really?
Yeah. All
really cool.
the Clone Wars stuff, the style, he said, was heavily based around the colours and feel and look of the characters from Thunderbirds.
I didn't know that. That's great. Well, so for me to be part of that was a thrill. And then I'll shoehorn in Thunderbirds, I'll go. Without getting into any detail, you know what? Whether someone loves or hates the new Thunderbirds, it's okay. But it's for a different audience. And just because it's what it is, to be in the room with David Graham,
of course,
is a thrill. So I'm still very proud to be part of that. And we have so much fun. Too. And so there's that. So if we're going to count those down, it's probably those. And if you ask me in 10 minutes, I'd probably change the order and add a whole bunch of them. Oh, yeah, I was Bob the Builder in America for a decade. How's that?
You've run out of numbers and you've even used your Thunderbirds I'll go. So sorry.
No.
That's denied.
Exactly.
Denied, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry. No.
Next.
So Mark, we are up to our allotted time for our interview, I'm afraid. Could you summarise? In fact, no. Before we do this, quick fire questions. Favourite Tracy brother?
Scott.
Favourite Thunderbirds vehicle?
2.
Stingray or Captain Scarlet?
Stingray, because it was slightly more stylized and a bit more nod and a wink. Okay. Plus, that opening. I mean, you know, I'm sorry. I mean, the opening of Captain Scarlet scared the hell out of me as a kid. You know, how many kids shows start off with the lead character being shot to pieces?
Yeah, and surviving it, and then killing you, the viewer, weirdly.
Yeah, I mean, it was, so Stingray, I mean, that, when you hear those drums and Marineville, you know, that. Yeah, Stingray.
Okay, awesome. Terrorhawks, happy times or a disappointment?
At the time, happy times.
Okay, good. I'm a huge Terrorhawks fan. So
yeah.
You raised a finger to say, but...
As a kid, I thought the film quality looked dirty.
Interesting. 16mm versus 35, you see. So.
Yeah, isn't it weird? I could tell, even as a kid, that there was something different about the film. So whereas even the quality of what you saw on TV of Thunderbird, Stingray, those shows at that point in time looked really sharp and like a movie. Terrorhawks, it might have just been the version of the print that they got on the day that I watched it, but it looked like it might have been dragged over the kitchen floor.
Yeah, there was still a 60mm thing. And also, if you'd watched Mars Monsters, which is the clip show, it's all then like duped footage, so It looks really terrible.
Yeah. Lucky us.
Okay, fine. And finally, if you had to delete one Gerry Anderson series from existence for the rest of time.
Secret Service.
Oh, ouch. And it's his anniversary year this year too, Mark.
Happy birthday.
Oh, I love the Secret Service. It's so weird and cute. Okay.
And now I was about to say The Investigator, but that's not fair because it didn't make it to a full series. And it's one of those things where if Vic Reeves made a Gerry Anderson show, that's it.
Yeah, it is Vic and Bob's The Investigator, isn't it?
So good.
It's a very unusual one. Podcast listeners, if you've not heard The Investigator, then or watched The Investigator, then do, because it's so bizarre. Even more bizarre than the Secret Service, but still had the shrinking thing. You don't like shrinking things?
I like shrinking things.
Yeah, okay.
Depends how it's done.
Anyway, Mark, finally, before we go, can you summarise why it is that Gerry Anderson stuff has had the impact on you, and what is the Gerry Anderson factor?
The Gerry Anderson factor is big, cinematic, exciting, blow the roof off the place, great acting, great vehicles, massive special effects, big explosions, everything. It's that. If you want big, compelling, oh my God, I'm at the seat of my chair, I gotta watch this till the end of it, and then watch the next one too, just in case it's better. It's that.
Wow. Kitchen sink answer there, but...
Kitchen sink.
Quite right too.
You can't. Well, people will try to. It's the sum of its parts. It's absolutely everything. You know, we mentioned it earlier, but Anderson shows, they're just at their very best. They are so high quality. They're movies on TV.
They are, absolutely. Brilliant.
And Barry Gray. There you go.
I almost forgot Barry. Goodness me, Mark. Crime there.
Oh my God! I was humming Hijacked earlier, walking around the kitchen. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Wow, what a brilliant sequence of notes to end on.
I'm so proud.
Mark, you've been brilliant and thoroughly entertaining. Thank you very much indeed for your appearance.
Nice to chat.
Jamie, that is so cruel, asking a question like that. This whole, would you delete this or would you delete that? That's awful.
Well, it gets people to really focus on what they like and dislike, rather than going, oh, they've all got their own intrinsic value and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Mark, thank you for your time. I know you guys out there have given Mark a lot of lovely feedback, so do tweet him at Mark with a C, Silk with a K, at Marc Silk, and let him know if you enjoyed it, and thank you for being on the podcast. Next week's interview is not yet locked. Right,
interesting. Well, funny you said it. I've just had, as we've been recording this, an email from I hate to name drop. An email from Timmy Mallet giving me Wendy Craig's email address.
Brilliant.
Because turns out
circles you move in, Richard.
No, it turns out there is quite a big Gerry Anderson connection with Wendy Craig, which I had no idea.
And what is that connection, Richard?
Well, Steve Carson got in touch on our Facebook group to say, "Hi, Richard and Jamie, listening to Pod 57 today and heard that you bumped into Wendy Craig in Cookham. You quoted that she might not know about Anderson programmes. Well," he says, "I was flicking through Sylvia Anderson's My Fab Years on Sunday, and in the chapter Famous Fans, Chapter 9. The first one mentioned is none other than Wendy Craig. Apparently the family were great fans of the Super Mario Nation shows, and she took her 2 sons to see filming at the Anderson studio, so I'm sure she'll recall this. It also notes that every birthday for the boys was a Thunderbird toy. And lastly, this is amazing, Wendy had a Rolls Royce called Fab 1. I can't think of anybody else more suitable for you to interview, Richard. Regards, that's from Stephen Carson in Edinburgh. So there you go. I'm on the case.
Oh, there you go. So she may be a great podcast guest as well.
Yeah, and aside from that, what a lovely career to talk about anyway, generally. But if we can shoehorn in a bit of Gerry Anderson while we're at it, that'd be great, wouldn't it? So with a bit of luck, we might have Wendy Craig on in a couple of weeks.
Perfect. And we do also have a Mary Turner archive interview and various other bits and pieces coming soon. So lots and lots to look forward to.
Indeed.
Somehow we're able to keep going with this because there's so much stuff to talk about in the Gerry Anderson universe, thankfully.
I do remember saying to you at the very beginning when you suggested we do a weekly podcast and every week we have an interview with someone, I said, are you really sure we can sustain that? Are we really going to find someone every week? Well, yes, it looks like we can. It's extraordinary.
For now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. Anyway, another way of examining the Gerry Anderson universe, rather than talking to cast, crew, celebrity fans, etc., is to allow Chris Dale to take us on a 6-decade-long journey through the Gerry Anderson universe. And that's not all in one go.
Oh,
luckily,
thank goodness for
it's
that.
broken up into episode-by-episode chunks. So, the randomiser, that's the thing, isn't it? Everybody loves it.
It certainly is, absolutely. Come on, then.
Should we have it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want, Ben?
You gotta help me. They're after me.
Who's after you?
We are.
Don't let them get me.
Oh, we're not here to get you, Ben. We're just here to alert the good sheriff to your sinister plan.
You shut your trap.
Oh, no. You see, Tex, we have definite proof that this man is up to no good.
How come you're so sure?
This morning, I was handed this piece of paper by my good friend Marina here, whom you only have to look at to see that she is a woman of exemplary character, which says, in 4 simple words, that Big Ben here is going to strike. Again.
Okay, Ben. Now start talking.
Oh, I'm sure he'll say that he doesn't know.
I don't know.
Yes, Tex, as a fellow detective, you will observe the all-too-familiar machinations of the criminal mind. Now, we don't know where Ben will strike, we don't know how, but, you know, Marina, this piece of paper looks suspiciously like a printout from the Randomiser. You what? It is from the Randomiser? What, you mean that's this week's? Oh, I don't believe it! What, you mean you made the selection, gave it to me as a surprise, and I got completely the wrong end of the stick and had us come tearing down to Four Feather Falls to accuse an innocent man for no reason? Oh, God, can you beat that? I mean, what a pair of loonies, eh? Oh, still, live and learn, eh?
So, that's it.
Oh, sorry, Ben. Sorry, Tex.
Now turn them horses around and get out of this town. And don't show your faces here till you've cooled off.
Yes, that would probably be best, wouldn't it?
Cut the talk and get on with it.
Oh, we will. Right after Captain Scarlet.
The Mysterons, sworn enemies of Earth.
So we're back with the original Captain Scarlet on the Randomiser, and we've I think this is the 4th episode from Captain Scarlet we've had now. This is certainly the earliest, and this is probably the episode. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still admiring this walk down the alley now in beautiful HD. It's so lovely. This is probably one of the episodes of the series I am most familiar with, at least the soundtrack, because in those long wilderness years between the 1990s revival and the 2000s revival, which may or may not mean anything to non-UK fans, I had basically no Anderson material at all. I think I'd accidentally recorded over the few Captain Scarlet episodes that I'd managed to record off TV. So, I had like some Stingray, a couple of ex-library, a Stingray VHS and a Joe 90 VHS. And then I got the audio CD of this from Fanderson, and I played it to death. It was this, and I think Model Spy were on the same disc. So yeah, I just played it to death. I know the soundtrack to this one off by heart. Not so clear on the visuals, though.
Some job that driver's got. shipping atomic bombs around.
It's not a bomb, it's a nuclear device for civil use.
Yes, all the best people have them, you know.
Still make a mess of the city if anything went wrong.
Oh, relax. What can go wrong?
It's just a bomb. It is not a bomb. I love that guy. And I don't know who does the voice of that guy, because that voice is the co-pilot on the DT-19 in Winged Assassin as well. And I don't believe that is any of the voice actors who were credited on this show, on the end titles. But, oh, I love that. It's not a bomb. It's for civil use. You don't move in the same circles as I do, fellow police officer. All the best people have them, you know. These nuclear devices in the corner. You're not anybody if you don't have a nuclear device in the corner.
Crazy. I can't hold it. I just can't hold it.
Anyway, the truck driver, Macy, seems to have lost control of his vehicle, rammed the police car off the road. And this begins... Oh, that's one of my favourite parts of the London street set. So if you've seen Captain Scarlet, you know they like to reuse this London street set that they built. Actually, I'm saying they built it for this episode. I'm sure it's like... Actually, it would have been the Mistrons, the first street scene we saw in this series. But this is I think, the main episode where you see all these street scenes. And a lot of the shop windows and signs and boards reused in later episodes. And there's a Go Gay shop. I don't know what the Go Gay shop sells, but I love that in this show from the late 60s, there's a little bit of gay unintentional. I'm sure it was. I'm sure nobody at the top knew that was in there. I guess that was just someone's idea of a joke. But yeah, the Go Gay shop is in the world of Captain Scarlet, which makes perfect sense to me. And one day I would actually like to sit down and just make a list of all of the shop front names and the shop, the names of all these buildings, because you see them so often. It would be nice if someone could recreate some of these names in... what's that thing where people are like making logos from old shows and then selling them? There's the Go Gay shop again! Although this time it's the Go Ga shop. No, there's a branch of the Go Gay shop on both sides of this London street.
We've lost contact with a transporter. Repeat, we have lost contact.
Because it's just such a popular shop. Transworld Freight, Randall Home Comfort. What else we've got? Informal World Facts. This is a beautiful shot of sequence of the transporter just tearing through London. The driver has completely lost control. It's totally under the Mistron influence. Just making these mad turns, demolishing cars and buildings and lampposts. Oh, what else have we got here? Cope Brothers, which appeared to be a toy shop. That is now no more a toy shop. That's a pile of rubble. Oh, I love that shot of Macy sitting back down behind the wheel. It looks so human. Gerhardt Manufacturing. What else have we got? London for Men, Dunstall, Millers, Mulliner, Burns. And there's the German. German appeared a lot. Anyway, the transporter is now pulled into an underground car park. And that's it.
A 120-ton transporter doesn't just vanish into thin air. Have you checked on the trigger mechanism?
Yes, sir. It's a 5-key electrical trigger with built-in safety circuits, timed for a 12-hour detonation. But you need the 5 keys to set it, and each one is held by a different person.
Well, that sounds like an uncharacteristically good bit of foresight on the part of the people who built that. Usually these things are activated, like, as soon as you look at them, and now it's like 5 keys, 5 different places. That makes sense. This is good.
Nuclear device vanishes.
Of course, it's all for naught, since the Mistrons just activate it by themselves anyway later.
This is a red alert, not a stroll around the deck. Move!
Okay, Colonel, okay. And they're going as fast as they would normally go, but I love it when the Colonel tells people off and includes slightly odd phrases like that. I think the best one is in White as Snow with the rest centre line, but the idea of a nice stroll around the deck, it's very cosy. Anyway, the truck driver has now regained consciousness.
This is Macy. Are you receiving me? Over.
With a
Come in, please.
Nasty bloodied gash on his cheek.
Hearing this? Over.
It's dead.
And this puppet, I think this is the first episode he appears in, and he played quite a lot of Mysterons because, much like the who was the puppet who was? Oh, it was this puppet. I'm trying to remember the Mervyn Brand puppet from the launching. So I must have talked about this before, but yeah, the reason this puppet played so many Mysterons through the course of the series is because he was one of the few guest characters to have a blinking head, which was made specifically for this episode, for these scenes where he's waking up. And going back to where I started this this rambling randomizer, this episode on audio, there's a lot of dead space in it in scenes like this where the
Anyone around?
Truck driver is just exploring the car park. But the script, Ed Bishop's narration, which I think was written by Ralph Titterton, it all works really well to cover the gaps. I don't think there's much cut out from these scenes on audio. And if you're interested to listen to those, still available from Big Finish.
It only remains for me to wish you a very good night. Good night, everyone.
And isn't it reassuring that in the year of 2068, all the news announcers are going to go back to sort of, oh, I'm just off to bed now, so from all of us here, good night. Odd though, the something I don't quite understand, this car park that the transporter is trapped in appears to be still under construction. The roof is not finished, and it looks to me that Macy could probably maybe climb onto the roof of the truck, maybe haul himself up onto the scaffolding and try to get out that way. I mean, it's not even sealed. It's not like if there was like an aerial search for this transporter that they couldn't see it from the air. If you put a helicopter over that building, it's going to spot it instantly. I guess the police search wasn't very much involved. They had to get the civil use guy to hospital.
13.
That's such a surreal moment as well. This is a very atmospheric scene of Macy first being, just exploring his new prison, then the clock, and then this absurdly sinister shot of the back of the truck just opening on its own. And then...
Who is it?
The keys are activating.
No.
Even though there's no one there, there's no keys at all. The Mysterons are just remote activating the bomb. Yeah.
Stop!
And I also really like the fact that Charles Tingwell is acting this scene alone. And he's making it... His performance is another factor in making it so tense. I don't know who knocked out the truck driver there. We can certainly assume it was Captain Black, but I never understood why they didn't just kill Macy. I'm glad they didn't, because he's a nice chap. But at least at this very odd moment where not only has he not been killed, he's now been left on the street, alive and well, slightly injured, to be discovered by Captain Scarlet, who is driving by the Elliot Nash Employment Bureau. What else have we got? Nelson Autos, Dewar Elf. I love these names. I don't know what any of them mean. Delaney Max. And a lot of these were just cut out of magazines and such. Anyway, Captain Scarlet has found Macy, taking him up to Cloud Base.
Come in, Captain. What's the news on the driver?
He's in one piece, but he's pretty shaken. Captain Blue's bringing him to Cloud Base.
Wait, what?
Was he found? In a side
street near the river. Hang on, you found him?
Right.
Did you pull over and say, "Hi, guy, I'll send help for you, don't worry," and then you drove off? Why didn't you bring him to Cloud Base?
I realize you've been through a good deal, but we need your help.
I came to in the street. How I got there, I just don't know. Well, I was wondering what to do when your people came along in the car.
They pulled down the window, asked me if I was all right. I said no, and he drove off. Very strange man.
Dr. Fawn will take care of you.
Why didn't Scarlet bring Macy to Cloud Base? I don't get it.
Well,
And it's not like, they didn't take him to hospital because they didn't give him medical attention until he came to Cloudbase. They say Dr. Fawn is going to look at him.
About 2,000 car parks in London fit Macy's description.
I don't care if there are 2 million. It's got to be found.
I bet you do. I don't care if there are 2 million billion squillion. It's good to know what exactly you're dealing with. Don't overinflate the problem. And now we're back in the car park. It's now bright daylight outside. The roof is definitely not finished, so an aerial search of the area in which the police lost the transporter would definitely yield results. And they're not doing it. In fact, where are the angels? They were launched, and I don't think we hear anything more about them in this episode. So much for Colonel White yelling at them. They've probably gone off to have a nice meal somewhere.
We're missing something. I know we're missing something.
Well, maybe doing a bit more than just having 2 guys listen to the interview with your only witness over and over and over again is not quite the best use of your time.
Let's assume Macy counted correctly and heard Big Ben strike 13. What's the only explanation?
I'm with you, Captain.
I do like this scene.
Central London.
It makes Blue and White seem smarter than Scarlet, which may not be the best thing when your show is named Captain Scarlet.
And how far do you calculate, Captain?
But I do like how methodical they are.
760 miles per hour.
How they seem knowledgeable in a way that they don't always do in other episodes.
Let's go, Captain Scarlet.
I don't get it.
I'll explain later.
Yeah, that's not the words you want to hear from the star of your show. I don't get it. What's going on? And it's nice as well that they don't explain right away.
We've checked out the Jupiter Way car park. It's not here.
SIG, Captain Oker. Well?
Oker was on the scene of the Jupiter Way car park. Presumably, he's now having to extricate Magenta from... Oh, I don't know, he's probably got his arm caught in a vending machine
I'll blow the door.
And I love the close-up detail on the SPV, the front there where the cannon comes out. There's some beautiful detailing, all those lines around the panels and the dirt, and the SPV is so beautiful. And I love how, this is only the 3rd episode of the series. I presume it was only the 3rd episode made. And the SPV already looks so grubby and dirtied down like a real vehicle would. It's such a fabulous machine.
10 miles from your present position. You will drive the transporter there and take it down to the prepared excavation 2 miles underground. It can be safely allowed to detonate at this point. But one more thing. Captain Scarlet drives the transporter. Alone.
But, Colonel,
That's an order. Good luck, Captain. Let's go.
So Scarlet's been left to drive the transporter alone while Blue clears the way with an SPV. And I love how... Again, this is only the 3rd episode, but it's already an unwritten rule. Any even remotely dangerous operation, Scarlet's the first in line. And nobody ever asks if he's okay with that. The Colonel has just gone, right, you're indestructible, so... Got this mission here for you where we need to retrieve my keys from this stump grinder. You're the man for the job. Get going. And he doesn't question it. He doesn't care. I would hope he's getting compensation of some description. More wonderful shops on the London street here. In your town, Dalgo. There's another Burns discount store. And a minor unfortunate element of this episode. A woman driver. Because she stole her car, because she's a woman. It's not funny. Thankfully, it doesn't last long.
Come on.
And Blue doesn't say, woman drivers, like they would do in, and did do in Thunderbirds. He doesn't know who's behind the wheel of that car, he just knows to shove her out the way. What else have we got? Oh, there's what looks like a load of mannequins in a shop window there. Bernstein Autos, there's another Burns discount store. Ooh, I love these shops. And I also love this this transporter model that reappeared a few times throughout the series. Often in the background of other London streets. What else have we got? Hans Phone, Dewar Elf, Peytos, Hill. Oh, another Dewar Elf, another Gerhardt Manufacturing. Lots of signs around saying drive with care that Scarlet's just ignoring. Stone Point Villas. SPV, and I think I also just spotted in the background there the Nitro Wazzly Doodar truck from 30 Minutes Afternoon. I'll have to check that. Anyway, Scarlet and Blue have now arrived at the construction site, and they're just ploughing through everything. Got to get the truck down to the underground excavation site. And I have issues with the...
Closing the doors, now.
The use of nuclear bombs in construction sites. I don't know...
Hold tight.
I don't know if this was ever a thing that was seriously considered in real life, but it just seems oddly sort of dangerous to let off a massive nuclear explosion under a London construction site. But who am I? I'm not a
Come on, get down there.
A construction genius of the year 2068. What do I know? 70 seconds to go. The truck has now landed in the underground excavation cave thingy. Yeah, this is a beautiful... This white and blue truck is just lovely. Being driven out into the cave area. Which, again, it's... I don't know...
Running out. Get back in that lift.
I really don't know how safe this is, guys. I've got to say. It looks like the underground cave is... You know, there are beams holding up the roof, and if you detonate a nuclear bomb down there, presumably the whole of the construction site at ground level is just going to cave in. But, you know, we're 10 seconds away from it going off here, so a bit late to do anything about it now. And Scarlet's not out of the lift yet.
Are you all right?
I will be, Captain. I will be.
Once I speak to the Union. Ugh. And here we get the explanation of how Captain Blue and Colonel White knew that Big Ben really had struck 13 times. Now, I don't know where the idea for this part of the story would have come from. If this is something that the writer, whose name I stupidly didn't think to look up before I started this, already knew about, if it was an experiment he himself conducted, or if it was just pure chance.
And the chimes we are hearing are taking approximately 4.5 seconds to reach us.
Right.
Well, Macy said he turned on his radio, remember?
Now, there is someone on YouTube, and I don't know if the video is still there, but they carried out this experiment of finding a place in London, turning on a radio, and hearing Big Ben strike 13 times with the 13th chime coming live from Big Ben.
I'm beginning to understand.
And it worked. They made it work. I can't remember where it was in London that they ended up recording it.
That's 7 over the radio.
But this is actually genuinely scientifically possible to achieve. So I would love to know more about the...
4.5 seconds behind the radio.
The radio is 1 chime ahead.
The genesis of this idea.
11.
I can't imagine that the writer really went out with a little portable radio and tried this for real. Did he just get lucky, or was this something he'd heard about before? If you know, please let me know.
13. I'll make that my lucky number.
No. Well, you did come off as a bit dim throughout this episode, unfortunately, Captain, having to be explained everything. I mean, the only thing you did was find the guy who was kidnapped by the Mysterons and then apparently just left him behind. However, that was Big Ben Strikes Again. And, oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Again, some kind of baffling leaps in... Oh, Tony Barwick. Well done, Tony Barwick, for this script. Yeah, some baffling leaps of logic when it comes to the Mysteron plan. Like, why did they leave Macy alive? And then why did they drag him out onto the street? I mean, why didn't they just, like, Captain Scarlet, tie a note to him saying, the truck is in the car park over there, you guys, come on. Yeah, 3 episodes in and the Mysteron plan is already rather half-hearted. Captain Scarlet. But it's nice that they took time to build a the atmospheric scenes in the car park, those beautiful opening sequences in the street with a truck just tearing through, blowing up and trashing everything, and a surprisingly thoughtful and intelligent central concept that didn't feel like a cheat. Very enjoyable episode, SIG.
Big Ben strikes again.
Yes, classic
we did
episode.
there in the intro there, the randomizer strikes again.
I see.
I wonder if anybody got that.
I doubt it, because they wouldn't have known then, would they? And they've probably forgotten about it by now.
Yeah, shouldn't have reminded them, really.
No.
Anyway, I loved that story as a kid. I remember going on several car journeys with Dad, where he'd been given either a tape or a CD version of the Ed Bishop narrated version of the TV story for his kind of, approval.
Yeah.
And I think we listened to it on the way into Pinewood, maybe while they were making Space Precinct, in fact.
Nice. Wow.
I just remember thinking, actually, this is quite cool. I like the fact that they've worked it out in a really clever way.
Yeah, that's right. So you're sitting there in the car thinking,
9-year-old.
Yeah, listening to Captain Scarlet thinking, actually, this is quite cool. Then you got into Pinewood, saw the filming of Space Precinct and thought, I'll go and sit in the car.
It was just a cool day from the minute getting in the car to getting out of the car at the end of the day back at home again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
great.
brilliant.
Well done, Chris. We love the Randomiser, and we know you do too out there because you keep telling us. Join us next week for the next instalment of the Mighty Randomiser and see what Chris is faced with next time.
Who knows? It'll be random.
Yeah, it will indeed. Now, Jamie, we do need, I think, to talk about Fab Live, don't we?
Oh gosh, are we doing this now?
Well, we could do this now because Fab Live, for those of you that don't know, is our almost monthly broadcast on Facebook and Twitch and Periscope and YouTube, where we try and get together, Jamie and I, in the same place at the same time and produce an hour and a half of fun, and people comment and join in and send us their stuff. So I'm guessing we might be aiming towards something in August, I suppose. So, in the meantime, if you would like to feature some of your artwork, or if you have any photographs, do send them in to fablive@gerryanderson.co.uk, and in the fullness of time, perhaps next week, we'll let you know the broadcast date, or whether it's happening at all, and we will do our best to feature your photographs and emails.
Yeah. Maybe the 5th of August, Monday the 5th of August. Should we try for then?
Let's say the 5th of August for now. We'll confirm it next week. We'll both have a look in our diaries and see if that's compatible. That's Monday the 5th of August, first Monday of August for Fab Live.
Maybe.
Possibly.
TBC. Okay, very good. So yes, thank you for listening all the way through. If you've got to this point, I did look on our stats and I see that 65% of our listeners listen through to the very end of the podcast every week. Isn't that amazing?
That is incredible, yeah. Well, good for them.
Yeah, more fool you, 65%.
That's right. I don't know what they're hanging on for. Nothing's going to happen now.
Well, we'll tell them, if they haven't already, to subscribe and please rate and review. Please actually do go and, just click the number of stars that you think we deserve out of 5.
Yeah.
And then a little box will come up and say, do you want to write some words? And then you just say, it's brilliant, not keen on Richard, Jamie's a bit annoying, but love the Randomiser, or whatever.
Yeah,
and then submit it. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'm sure so would other potential listeners. So thank you for doing that in advance.
Great. All right. And in the meantime, we'll see you next week for Pod 59.
59.
Crazy, isn't it?
We are racing towards 100 at the rate of one a week. So
quite literally.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will be in your ears next week. And until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Oh, just in time to put bins out. It's perfect timing.
Is it bin time?
Well, it's Friday morning, isn't it? Here they come.
Oh, did I tell you about what's happened with our bins, Richard?
Oh, I sense an interesting story coming on.
Well, it's not, but we got a letter from the council saying that we now have to put our bins at a new deposit point, which is 200 metres up the lane, up that quite steep lane from the house. And I tried pulling 2 wheelie bins up that hill is tough going.
Well, I think we need photographic proof of this, Jamie. So next time you do that, let's have a picture.
I'll video myself doing the whole thing if I've got a spare hand. Yeah, what I really need is some kind of scientific genius to create a specialised machine, and the job of which is only to push the bins up the hill.
If only we knew such a person. Yes.
I'll get in touch.
There we go. He's arrived.
Right, okay, fine. Quick, you better get the bins out, Richard.
I better be off, yeah. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?